Pablo plagiarized my work for his childhood sweetheart. He made her out to be a genius writer, but in the name of love, he drained my inspiration and life, until I was reborn. Back to the day his sweetheart first won an award. Pablo thought I was going to be relentless again and scolded me with a frown. Isn't this good? Gloria got fame. And you got money. Don't you love money the most? But he didn't know that I had already bought a ticket to the capital. I didn't want Pablo's people or his money anymore. Later, Pablo knelt before me, crying bitterly. Fiona, I'll give you everything. Please come back. Will you? Chapter 1. Gloria. Congratulations on winning the Peach and Plum Writing Cup. On behalf of all the members of the newspaper, we congratulate you. Pablo, holding a bouquet of flowers, slowly walked up to Gloria. Gloria shyly smiled and accepted the flowers. They looked like a perfect couple, each complimenting the other's brilliance. But Pablo was supposed to be my boyfriend. I looked around and realized I had been reborn, back to the day Gloria claimed the championship with my work. All the pain from my past life rushed into my mind at this moment. My work was stolen, my hands and legs were broken, and I was imprisoned in Pablo's house. My head was splitting with pain as I slowly stood up. Gloria, give me back my work. Instantly, the congratulatory noise in the hall died down, and all eyes were on me. Pablo's face twisted for a moment, and he stepped in front of Gloria in a protective stance. He asked angrily, Fiona, I know you're upset about not winning, but you can't just make up lies about Gloria. If you say Gloria stole your work, then show us the evidence. I was stunned for a moment. Then I remembered. My manuscript was with Pablo. I had trusted him so much, and now that trust was being used to hurt me. I couldn't produce any evidence. A wave of sorrow washed over me. Fiona, jealousy is not a good quality. Pablo decisively labeled me. Yes, as long as his childhood sweetheart is seen as pure and flawless, he can do anything. Even though I was his girlfriend, the looks I got from others were full of disdain. As everyone was leaving, Gloria walked up to me with Pablo. Tears were welling up in her eyes as she said with a sobbing voice, Fiona, it's all my fault. Please don't blame Pablo. Pablo, looking pained, comforted her and then turned to me with a cold look. Isn't this better? Gloria got fame. And you got money. Isn't that what you love the most? So this is how he saw me. Fury built up inside me, and I raised my voice unconsciously. What if I want her reputation ruined? Chapter 2. In this era of early economic reforms, society highly valued knowledge and talent. Without a word, Pablo raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. My cheeks swelled up instantly, my head buzzed with pain, and my vision started to blur. I looked at him warily, and remembered something from long ago. Pablo sat next to me, smiling as he said, Fiona, your writing is beautiful, and your words are very moving. I will definitely help you publish them one day. Back then, he wasn't yet the deputy editor of the newspaper, but he was thinking about helping me publish. Now, he was using his position to submit my work under Gloria's name for the competition. His promises replayed in my mind, word by word. Tears fell like pearls off a string, landing on Pablo's arm. He cradled my face in his hand, caressing it gently as he spoke softly. Fiona, I didn't want to hit you. I was just too anxious. You know how important reputation is for a comrade. I won't let you hurt Gloria. Pablo's eyes showed pity and regret, but those emotions were quickly replaced by others. Gloria trembled and hid herself in Pablo's arms. I couldn't see her face. From start to finish, I never touched Gloria. So what harm could there be? Choosing between us, in his heart, was just a reaffirmation of his choice for Gloria. My heart felt as though it had been slashed, bleeding profusely, with a swollen face. I went to the train station and bought a ticket to the capital, departing in 3 days. In my previous life, from this day forward, Gloria had tasted sweetness. Time and again, she urged Pablo to give her my work. Pablo did as she wished. They were like leeches clinging to me, slowly draining my spirit, life, and vitality. I remember, just before I died, Pablo looked at me with pitying eyes and said softly, Fiona, I will take care of you for life. I felt like a beggar being thrown scraps. I woke from a nightmare to find Pablo sitting at the edge of my bed. I had given him the key, allowing him to come and go as he pleased in my apartment. It was this privilege that enabled him to access many of my manuscripts. Pablo frowned, asking worriedly, "Fiona, what's wrong? Did you have a nightmare yesterday? It was my fault for hitting you, but you absolutely must not tell anyone the truth. You know? Okay. Today I'll take you to the restaurant where we had our first date. How about that? Consider it a way to make it up to you." Pablo spoke as if the decision was already made. Without asking for my opinion, I hid the mockery in my eyes and slowly got up. When we passed by a flower shop, Pablo bought me a bouquet of flowers. The flowers were fragrant and beautiful, just the way I liked them. My heart, which had been quiet for so long, started to beat for him again. He still remembered. I thought he had forgotten. "Pablo, Fiona, what a coincidence to see you here." We ran into Gloria. She looked beautiful today, her face peachy, wearing a red floral dress that made her look stunning. Chapter 3. I couldn't ignore the flash of admiration in Pablo's eyes. "Gloria, what brings you here? Would you like to join us for dinner? We could also celebrate your first place win." For a moment, it felt like my breath had stopped. I looked at Pablo, my heart breaking into pieces. It was supposed to be just the two of us on this date. Gloria's eyes carried a hint of challenge, yet her tone was as gentle as the breeze. "Would that be all right? Fiona is your girlfriend. Wouldn't she get upset?" I looked at him with a hint of hope, trying to find any trace of his love for me on his face. "Not at all. Fiona wouldn't mind such a small thing." Pablo was quick to respond, but his gaze didn't meet mine. He couldn't look me in the eye. He was feeling guilty. See, he knew it would upset me, yet he still invited Gloria. I should have been completely disillusioned with him, but why did I still hope that he would firmly choose only me? Perhaps he really had given me some sweet moments, but the hurt he brought was indelible. In the end, I compromised, and the three of us went to the restaurant together. The dim lighting was atmospheric. All around were couples and pairs, and only our table had 3 people. Pablo placatingly placed the menu in front of me. "Fiona, you order." But I had no appetite, and I casually ordered some of my favorite dishes. I ate without tasting, watching as Pablo peeled shrimp and placed the meat into Gloria's bowl. They acted intimately, as if they were the real couple. I thought I had given up, but why did my heart still ache? It was so strange. Unconsciously, I clenched my fist and let out a deep sigh. Gloria glanced at me, dramatically covering her mouth, and spoke anxiously. "Sorry. Pablo and I grew up together. I'm just used to it. Maybe I should break this bad habit." Pablo, however, dismissively said, "We've known each other much longer than she has. Gloria, you're fine just as you are. No need to change." Pablo didn't see anything wrong with it. Yes, he would peel shrimp for Gloria, drop her off after work, and frequently dine at her house. There seemed to be a barrier between them that no one else could penetrate. The scene was glaringly painful. I put down my chopsticks and stood up to leave. Pablo called out angrily from behind me, "Fiona, I've already made it up to you. Why are you still angry? We are still eating. It's rude to leave by yourself." I could almost picture Pablo's expression, frowning with anger, the veins on his neck standing out. It seemed I often saw him angry. He was always generous with his smiles for Gloria, something I seldom saw. I took a deep breath and left without looking back. In 2 days, I would be completely free. Chapter 4. I contacted a 20-year-old girl, planning to sell her my job at the newspaper. After all, I needed money to live in the capital. But somehow Pablo found out about this and came to me, furious, his eyes cold as he asked, "Fiona, what exactly are you up to? Why are you selling your job? Is it just so you won't have to see Gloria? Pablo and I are just childhood friends, innocent companions. If there was really something between us, would it be your concern? I've always seen her as a sister." Even now, Pablo still thought it was my fault. Everything I did was wrong. Gloria was crying on the side, tears streaming down her face, continuously shaking her head. "Fiona, please don't fight with Pablo over me. It's all my fault. All my fault." Pablo grew even angrier. his grip strengthening. Ouch! I cried out in pain. Pablo suddenly let go, cupping my face, and said, "It's okay. We're getting married anyway. Once you sell your job, you can peacefully stay at home, take care of the children, and serve your in-laws. I see your temper getting worse. Must be because you've been influenced by some bad people outside. Staying at home will be good. Being gentler fits the role of my wife better." His face loomed large in my vision, his eyes full of fervor. That expression. I had seen it before when he forced me to write countless pieces. Unpleasant memories surged in my mind. I was so frightened that I stumbled back 2 steps and pushed him away. Tears streamed down my face, and my body couldn't stop shaking. Seeing my frightened appearance, a flicker of pity crossed Pablo's eyes, but it quickly turned cold. "Fiona, even if you don't want to work, you can't use Gloria as an excuse. Do you know how much this could affect her reputation? You can do anything, but you must not hurt Gloria. Otherwise, I won't marry you. Gloria's health isn't good, and her only dream is to become a writer. I must help her achieve this dream. So, I am supposed to be the stepping stone for her dream?" I couldn't help but raise my voice in question. "What about me? If you care so much about Gloria, why don't you just be with her? Why torment me?" He cared so much for Gloria. "Pablo and I are just like siblings. Fiona, don't get it wrong. I don't want to ruin your relationship," Gloria said as tears fell and her breathing quickened. In no time, her face turned red as if she was having an attack. Pablo slapped me hard, his eyes red with anger. "Fiona, don't taint my relationship with Gloria with your filthy thoughts. If it wasn't for Gloria's health not allowing it, I wouldn't be with you." With that, he turned and walked away with Gloria. So that was it. The happiness he brought me, our joyful times together. It was all fake. No wonder Pablo was so keen on getting me pregnant and then moved to a separate room after I successfully conceived. I thought he loved children, but it turns out he just couldn't bear to have his frail childhood sweetheart bear his child. So he turned to me. I collapsed on the ground, my clothes soaked through. "Pablo, I don't want your money anymore." Chapter 5. Early the next morning, I packed my bags and left that place. Once settled in the capital, I received a reply from Xinhua News Agency. My work had been successfully accepted. Perhaps in the near future, my work would be published. Readers from every corner of the country would read my writings. I would be just like Gloria in my previous life. Thinking this, my heart started pounding intensely. I packed up and went to the address mentioned in the letter. Sitting in a coffee shop, I curiously watched everything outside the window. The streets were bustling, with everyone riding bicycles and a few cars occasionally passing by. Suddenly, I saw Pablo coming across the street. He saw me, his eyes lit up dramatically, and he hurriedly crossed through the crowd towards me. I quickly stood up, but not fast enough to avoid his grasp. Pablo clenched my wrists tightly, gazing at me greedily, and whispered, "Fiona, I finally found you." It was the first time I saw Pablo looking so disheveled. His beard was unshaven, his clothes were wrinkled, and the dark circles under his eyes were very noticeable. Before leaving, I had left Pablo a breakup letter. What did he mean by this? I struggled to shake him off, but his grip was strong. We were clearly no longer together. So why was he still looking for me? Panic rose in my heart, and I looked around, desperate for help. Suddenly, a strong hand pulled Pablo away. Pablo staggered back several steps and steadied himself against a tree. The man in front of me was tall, with a strong facial structure, his deep voice reaching my ears. "Sir, please stay away from this lady. Can't you see the fear on her face? Leave immediately, or I will call the police." A flicker of panic crossed Pablo's face as he feigned composure. "I'm Fiona's partner. You have no right to interfere in our affairs. We've already broken up." Fearing that this good Samaritan might leave, I quickly contradicted Pablo. The man turned to me, raising an eyebrow curiously. "So, you are Fiona, the author of Like Smoke." "I'm Alex, a leader at Xinhua News Agency." Hearing this, Pablo quickly moved closer, his face filled with anxiety. "What? You submitted Like Smoke? How could you submit it? What about Gloria?" My heart sank. Sure enough, Pablo had come looking for me with a purpose. I had known his nature. How could he possibly change? I suppressed the mockery in my eyes and said firmly, "Just give up. I will never give you my work again." Pablo's eyes widened. Not expecting my resolute decision, he put on a condescending expression, giving me an ultimatum. "Fiona, I'm giving you one last chance. Come back with me. Hand all these to Gloria, and I will marry you." I remembered the past life. How Pablo had threatened me when I didn't want to continue writing for them. At that time, I truly cared about our relationship. I cared so much that I was even willing to give up myself for him. But now, the Fiona who loved him was already dead. Chapter 6. Seeing me silent, Pablo raised his hand in a rush, seemingly about to hit me. I closed my eyes in fear, but the expected blow never came. Instead, Pablo let out a cry of pain. He clutched his stomach and rolled on the ground. The poised gentleman he once appeared to be completely vanished. Alex slowly retracted his leg and exhaled a puff of smoke. I can't stand men who bully women. Pablo's face was twisted in pain, sweat beads rolling down his face. I found him particularly ridiculous now. Alex's face lost its mocking expression as he opened the door of the sedan and said to me, "Let's go. I'll take you to sign the contract. The newspaper has high hopes for your Like Smoke, and there's a good chance it could win an award. Once it does, publishing won't be an issue." Of course, I knew. In my previous life, Gloria had become famous by using my Like Smoke. Now, I was simply reclaiming that honor. Pablo looked at me dazedly, his face filled with envy. As I walked past him, I vindicatively kicked him in the stomach. Watching him wince in pain, I felt an extraordinary sense of relief. Chapter 7. Not long after the news about Like Smoke spread, I was already preparing for its publication. I became famous, with countless people coming to visit. Pablo also came to see me a few times. This time, somewhat differently, he brought some sweet fruit candies. Those were my favorite in my past life. But now, I equally detested them, because during those days when I was imprisoned and exploited, only when I created perfect works for them would Pablo condescendingly buy me the cheapest sweet fruits. Even though they were quite wealthy by then, eating those sweet fruits meant I had endured another painful experience. Pablo, trying to please, brought the candies to me. A sickly sweet aroma invaded my nose, causing a wave of nausea in my stomach. I fought off the fatigue and shook my head. Pablo picked up a candy and brought it to my lips. "Isn't this your favorite?" I slapped his hand away, my eyes fixed sternly on Pablo. I never actually liked these things. Why did Pablo think I liked those candies? Could he have been reborn too? The thought weighed on me like a heavy stone, making it hard to breathe, and I clenched my fists involuntarily. I slowly stepped back. Unexpectedly, Pablo rushed over and grabbed my hand. He groped for my hand, his hot breath pouring over my head. "Fiona, I truly know I was wrong. It was all that wretch Gloria who deceived me. If not for her, we wouldn't have ended up like this. But don't worry. I've dealt with her. She won't bother us anymore." With that, he puckered his lips and leaned towards me. His mouth, which had kissed Gloria countless times, disgusted me. Suddenly, Alex walked over. He held a cake in one hand and grabbed the back of Pablo's collar with the other. To Alex, the cake and Pablo were no different. Alex handed me the cake and with a frown, flung Pablo out. Pablo fell to the ground like a lump of mud, candy scattering everywhere. The cake Alex gave me was adorned with red flowers, looking especially beautiful. Alex stepped on Pablo's back and mocked disdainfully. "Didn't you see that Fiona doesn't like it? Yet you still press on. Candies are no match for a cake in winning a girl's favor." Yes, Pablo is no match for Alex. I really was blind before. I slowly crouched in front of Pablo, holding up the small cake and said, "Pablo, I never liked those candies. And as for being with you, what face do you have left? I now have a color TV and a cell phone. I am a sought-after author, earning $100 a month, plus thousands in royalties." With each statement I made, Pablo buried his head a little deeper, so he could feel inferior too. I used my finger to lift Pablo's chin, capturing the embarrassment and helplessness in his eyes. I let out a chuckle. Chapter 8. Pablo has lived 2 lives. Yet he remains so naive. Pablo looked up at me, his eyes showing astonishment at my smiling face. I know I look beautiful now, but I was also beautiful in my past life, only tortured into a shadow of myself by them. I raised my hand and slapped his face twice, sharply. The frustration in my heart dissipated with the crisp sound of the slaps. Squinting my eyes, I watched Pablo's face swell red, his expression dazed, and I said with a laugh, "This is me paying you back, Pablo. What makes you think I would still want you now?" I stood up straight, grabbed Alex by the tie, and kissed him. Alex froze for a second before taking the lead. From the corner of my eye, I saw the sadness in Pablo's eyes. Could he feel sadness? Too bad. I no longer care. I let go of Alex, turned to face Pablo, my tone cold and resolute. There is nothing left between us to salvage. The air was filled with a suffocating silence. I took a deep breath, turned away, and didn't look back. These 2 slaps were just a greeting to the reborn, and the hatred from my past life. I will repay it all. Chapter 9. Pablo seemed to be competing with Alex. The day after Alex sent me a bouquet of flowers, Pablo sent one too. I didn't accept it. Alex gave me flowers as a suitor. "What about you?" A shade of melancholy colored Pablo's eyes as he spoke softly. "It's my fault. You can punish me however you want." He left the flowers outside the door and walked away. I kicked the flowers down the stairs. Pablo paused, bent over to pick up the flowers, and ran off. The capital is very cold in December, and my breath quickly turned into white mist. Pablo ran back, pulled open his coat, and took out a bag of cookies. He hurriedly stuffed the cookies into my hands, smiling as he spoke. "Didn't you want to eat them? I waited in line to get these. Eat them while they're still warm." I felt the warmth in my hands, and realized these were from a famous old bakery I had always wanted to try. It was 5 kilometers away from where I lived. To keep the cookies warm, Pablo had run all the way here. Suddenly, my thoughts drifted back to a long time ago. I had prepared a meal for Pablo and delivered it to his office. It was cold, and the snow-covered ground was slippery. I wanted him to eat the food while it was still hot, so I ran all the way. After falling hard, I didn't care about myself and scrambled to check the box. When I saw Pablo, he frowned and scolded. "I had plans to eat out with Gloria today. Why did you bring food?" Eventually, the meal and the box were thrown into a trash bin. Thud. Under Pablo's astonished gaze, I threw the cookies away. The cookies traced a perfect parabola through the air and landed in the trash can. I curled my lips into a cold smile. This kind of thing is no longer worthy of me. Just like you. Pablo's face turned ashen. The snow fell on his head, as white as his complexion. Alex came up beside me with an umbrella, asking softly, "Shall we go? I've already made reservations at the restaurant." I linked my arm through Alex's, bypassing Pablo. After dinner, Alex drove me home. From a distance, I could see Pablo standing under my apartment building. It's strange, I thought. Nothing I did ever moved him before. Does he think these gestures can move me now? Chapter 10. Snowflakes settled on Pablo's head and shoulders, making him look like a snowman. When he saw me, he opened his eyes, filled with hope. I frowned and spoke coldly. "Do you find this amusing? Your presence only brings trouble to my life. People need dignity as trees need bark. Pablo, you understand that, right?" Pablo fell to his knees with a thud, directly in front of me. The tears he shed turned into ice on the snowy ground. "Fiona, I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me just this once? I won't dare do it again. From now on, I'll do whatever you ask. You want to publish a book, right? Let's go back, and I'll help you publish it. I can make you the foremost talented woman." As he spoke, he crawled over and clung to my legs. I stepped back a few paces, watching him bury himself in the snow. No need. I can publish my work based on my own talent. Leaving him with that, I quickly walked up the stairs with Alex. I faintly heard a sad cry coming from behind. What does that have to do with me? My heart was undisturbed, only feeling that all of this came too late. Pablo's regret could not make up for his past betrayals and injuries. Chapter 11. After that day, Alex became my boyfriend. When he asked about my past grievances with Pablo, I only told him about my works being plagiarized. I didn't tell him I was reborn. I wanted to handle it myself, but I never expected Gloria to confront me. I stayed late at the newspaper office, and it was dark when I left. Riding my bike home, someone suddenly lunged out from the roadside, startling me to a stop. On closer inspection, it was Gloria. She was wearing thin clothes, her hair a mess, and her face dirty. Had I not known her for 2 lifetimes, I wouldn't have recognized her. Gloria's eyes sparkled with greed as she reached out her grimy hands towards me. She hysterically shouted, "Give me the manuscript. Give it to me. I am the real talented writer. I am." Ha ha ha. I watched her warily, ready to flee at any moment. Suddenly, another figure emerged from the grass by the roadside. Pablo appeared disheveled, pausing in surprise when he saw me. His eyes reddened violently. Then he frantically wiped away tears and said, "I'm sorry." Gloria went mad and ran out on her own. Recently, the Writers Association withdrew her honors. She couldn't take it and just snapped. I don't know how she found me, but I have no choice. I must take care of her. It seems that Alex stepped in to help me get justice. I exhaled sharply, and the white mist blurred Pablo's face. I can hardly remember what he looked like in his glory days in the previous life. Now, he can never catch my eye again. Pablo looked at me deeply, gave a bitter smile, and his voice choked up. "Fiona, I really know I was wrong. I don't love her. I only love you. I have loved only you in both lifetimes. But I had no choice. I had to take care of Gloria. Her dad died saving my dad. I shouldn't have given your work to her." He suddenly dropped his shoulders, all his former pride gone. But I only felt irony. Chapter 12. Why should I pay for what he owes Gloria? I gripped the handlebars, ready to just ride away. Suddenly, Gloria threw herself in front of me, fell to her knees, and started banging her head violently. Her forehead split open, blood flowing onto the ground. She was muttering under her breath, "I'm sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have stolen your manuscript. I shouldn't have stirred things up between you and Pablo. I shouldn't have caused your miscarriage out of jealousy. It's all my fault. All my fault." I nearly collapsed. So, it was her who had caused the death of my child in my past life. Pablo threw himself down in front of Gloria, grabbing her hair, hysterically demanding, "That child was harmed by you, Gloria. I treated you so well, and you killed my child." Pablo suddenly turned to me, his voice frantic. "Fiona, believe me, I didn't know." I bit my lip hard, unable to make a sound. Grief overwhelmed me like a tide. I rushed forward and slapped Gloria hard twice. Gloria curled up on the ground, moaning in pain. Pablo looked at me helplessly, his words tumbling out incoherently. "Fiona, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I would never harm my own child." I staggered back, utterly devastated. Yes, Pablo would never harm his own child, but he would harm me. Suddenly, Gloria lunged at me with renewed fury, but she was too weak now, and I kicked her away after just a few steps. She rolled twice on the road and stopped at the base of a telephone pole, violently spitting out a mouthful of blood. She lay motionless, like a corpse. Pablo hurried over to her. I curled my lips into a cold smile, speaking with irony. "This is your retribution." I walked away with my bicycle, only hearing a voice carried by the wind. "Fiona, I'm sorry. A simple apology can't cover the harm they did to me in my past life." Chapter 13. Life without Pablo has been blissfully happy. My works are being published one after another, and my relationship with Alex has grown stronger. We plan to marry, right here in the capital. Alex asked me if I wanted to go back to my hometown. I shook my head. That place isn't my home. A place that makes me sad can't be my home. Everything was arranged smoothly. Just a few days before my wedding, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep. Suddenly, I heard some faint noises outside. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the noise continued for a long time without ceasing. My heart rose to my throat, and I sneakily hid under the covers to call Alex. Reassured by him, I stealthily opened the door and saw a faint light coming from my study. I tiptoed over and found it was Pablo. He had secretly picked the lock to get in. He was holding a lit torch, rummaging through my study. Pablo opened the drawer where I kept my manuscripts and pulled out the novel I had just finished writing. No way! I absolutely couldn't let him destroy it. I suppressed the panic in my heart and shouted, Pablo, what are you doing? A flicker of panic crossed Pablo's face. Then he revealed a sinister smile. Fiona, just break off your engagement with Alex and come with me. Or I'll burn all of this. If it weren't for your well-written articles attracting Alex, you wouldn't have left me. Wasn't it better when I kept you locked up at home? You should be thankful to me. There are so many bad men in the world. Only I can protect you. Pablo grew more agitated as he spoke, his face contorting into a maniacal laugh. This was a complete reversal from his usual demeanor. I kept a close watch on his movements, fearing he might accidentally set fire to my manuscripts. Are you all right? Alex rushed over, speaking softly. I shook my head, unwilling to be distracted. Pablo suddenly noticed Alex and pulled out a small knife from his pocket. The knife glinted silver, looking very sharp. Pablo pointed the knife at Alex, hysterically shouting, It's all because of you. This outsider. If it weren't for you seducing Fiona, she wouldn't have left me. You even want to marry her? I'll kill you. Then you can't marry her. His voice was hoarse with anger, as if every word was being squeezed out from the depths of his throat. Pablo's face was twisted with rage as he held the sharp knife and charged without hesitation. Alex dodged the attack, retreating slowly. I was terrified that Pablo might hurt Alex. I looked at Pablo and said coldly, Even without Alex, I would never love you. I would never go with you, Pablo. I took a deep breath and continued. I was reborn. I remember everything from my past life, and you are the source of my pain. I will never forgive you. Even now, every midnight, I have nightmares of you forcing me to write. Whenever things didn't go your way, you would beat me. My palms were sweaty, and I was extremely nervous. He slowly turned around, his face a complex mix of emotions, tears streaming down his face as he forced an ugly smile. No wonder you said that day in the hall. So you had already been reborn. I thought I could take the initiative and have you back. Desperation flickered in his eyes. I never thought you had already left me. I really regret it now. I shouldn't have helped Gloria steal your works. Fiona, I do love you. I shouldn't have done that. His voice grew softer, as if he was talking to himself. I walked up to him and slapped him hard. Pablo, if I could, I truly wish I had never met you. The blow turned his head aside, his face a mix of regret and unwillingness. Tears swirled in his eyes before finally falling. I think, perhaps now he truly regretted everything. Suddenly, Pablo raised the knife and plunged it into his own chest. Blood sprayed out, splashing across my face. I stood frozen as Pablo fell, blood pooling around him. The torch fell to the ground, and sparks quickly spread. Alex grabbed the manuscripts and pulled me to run outside. I watched as the fierce sparks slowly consumed Pablo. Pablo looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. A look of relief spread across his face, as if he had laid down a great burden. Chapter 14. The fire did not spread too much, and after the fire was extinguished by the ambulance, we saw Pablo's body. The fire had left his body unrecognizable. I calmly contacted his parents to take his remains away. Pablo's death did have a significant impact on me, but I wasn't sad. Instead, I felt a sense of relief. The day of the wedding was a rare sunny day in the capital, with warmth permeating the air. The doors and windows were decorated with big red happiness characters, and several red banners hung on the walls. Adding to the solemnity, I brought my parents and friends to the capital. Alex also invited his friends and family. We didn't have a grand ceremony, just invited the president of the society to be our officiant. His solemn and dignified voice echoed in the hall, each word seeming to carry the weight of the era and the good wishes of the people for the newlyweds. Alex wore a brand new Zhongshan suit, his rugged face flushed with happiness. I wore a bright red jacket, my hair pinned up at the back with a large red flower, and light makeup on my face. There were no luxurious wedding rings, no elaborate ceremonies, just our sincere gazes and tightly held hands. We solemnly bowed to the portrait of the chairman in respect. After the ceremony, everyone gathered around a long table set with simple refreshments. The tea steamed hot, and seeds and candies spread their sweet fragrance. Children laughed and darted through the crowd, while adults discussed the country's new policies, full of hope for the future. Getting married did not hinder my writing, but instead, I brought this change into my articles, making my words convey even more hope. My works gradually spread to every corner of the country, and I believe they brought new perspectives to women there. For many, many years afterward, I continued to receive letters from my readers. At this moment, I felt that my perseverance really meant something.